Workbook, Unit 1A, Exercise 4, page 17.
All right, let's start the show. It's the English Conversation Premium 3rd Edition podcast. I record it while still learning English. And you guys are the big part of this podcast because you should feel free to correct my mistakes in the comment section. And I gotta say that you are lucky because it's the only podcast whose host is happy to read about my mistakes. Because if you're a person who likes to go to a comment section and correct some blogger or a podcaster's mistakes, nobody likes you. Nobody likes when you do it except for me. I like it, and you should do it as often as you can, and you should stay with me. I read all of your comments for the first episode, and I'm ready to correct some of my mistakes. And the first one, some of you required more light. See, I have equipment, and I have the window, which gives me access to the Berlin summer. It's finally nice outside, and as a person who almost died this winter in Berlin, I'm happy that you have the grass to touch and you have this weird yellow ball in the sky. But as a stand-up comedian, I fucking hate the summer because when it's nice outside, you guys finally have a choice. You have a choice. You can either go to an open mic and try to find any funny jokes in this fucking rambling that we do in weird, shitty bars in Berlin, or you can go to a lake or like a forest. And really often you choose a lake, and we are left with like 4 weirdos who still come to comedy shows in Berlin, and we have to base our whole careers on their opinions. I have a plan. I want to record my stand-up special later this year, like in November or December, and I'm afraid because I'm going to do a tour in the United States where like the grown-ups perform, like real comedians perform, like Dave Chappelle, Louis C.K., Bill Burr, Taylor Tomlinson. And I'm going to be there in the same country, in probably the same clubs that they perform in. I'm terrified of it. So my plan is to write another hour of jokes. I already have one, and I want to write another one to have 2. It's like, have you read Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro? It's like I have the main hour, and I have like an hour who has spare parts. And if something in my main hour doesn't work in America, I will use organs from my second hour, and by the end of the tour, I will build like a universal hour of comedy. Hopefully, to do that, I need to finish a new hour of jokes by like September or October, which means I have to do most of my job in this summer, like June, July, and August. And usually I will have like 3 to 4 to 6 people in the audience of an open mic because it's summer and Berlin hosts mostly suck at marketing. So those like 20 people who visit comedy shows in Berlin, they will decide which jokes I will use as my spare hour later this year. So I'm kind of terrified, and I'm not really sure if it's a good idea, but you cannot stop the earth from turning. I hate summer, but I have lights. As for like English mistakes, last time I said that I had 6 English lessons in a week, which is wrong. You should say I have 6 lessons a week. So I'm trying to correct this mistake. Sorry for making you wait for the second episode so long. I promise to try to record this podcast twice a month. See, I'm improving. Please keep correcting me in the comment section. It's also good for the reach, for the views, because YouTube thinks that it's a good podcast while you're still correcting my mistakes. And I don't know where's my book. Fuck.
Big. small.
So I still have this book. It's called English Conversation Premium 3rd Edition, and I kind of wait for this company, Practice Makes Perfect, to sue me for using their name, but I think I will not go to prison. All right, so I record this podcast using the questions from this textbook because I have no fantasy and I'm not confident enough to actually come up with ideas for my podcast, so I use this book. It's an exercise from the lesson 2. It asks me questions which are supposed to be light and not making a student sad, but they do, because I learn English while being in the worst place of my life. So, yeah. What do you like to do when you hang out with your friends? Shit. Usually when I hang out with my friends, which doesn't happen a lot because we all live in different countries. So when we hang out like in reality, in person, we usually sigh. We just remember the times when we all lived in Moscow. We also sighed, we also did, but for very stupid reasons, as we understand now, because our government used to commit way less horrible crimes and we were still upset about it, and now our sadness is elevated to new heights. We hate our government, we hate our president for real reasons. But mostly, of course, we talk over Zoom or over like Telegram video conferences, and it's weird because all my friends are now like in Georgia, in the United States, in South Asia, in Kazakhstan, and it's so weird because we're in different time zones. Like when you are full of energy, your friends fall asleep, and you are like, the vibe is always off, and you discuss things that like, you have different lives, because I know it's going nowhere. I lived in a small town in Russia, and after that I moved to a little bit bigger town to go to the university, and even that ruined some of my friendships because I got access to better culture, better music, better people, and even like 6 months of the university already ruined some of my friendships because I was on a different speed. I don't know how to explain it. The life in my hometown is way slower, and a bigger city makes you like a more nervous and faster human being. And the farther I went from my hometown, the less common things I had with my friends from my childhood. I only have one friend left who's still like connected to me, and the others, we don't know what to say to each other. So I'm afraid that that's what will happen with my current friends. I miss Moscow, but I don't think I will ever return. I mean, even if it will not be dangerous and stupid to go back to Russia, and I will want to be in Russia, I will prefer to live in a smaller city like St. Petersburg or Kazan, because after Moscow I moved to Istanbul, which is even bigger and faster than Moscow, and I was horrified. And then I moved to Berlin, which is still a huge city, but it's not that huge. It's like 5 times smaller than Istanbul, and I guess like 3 or 4 times smaller than Moscow, and it's so much better. It's slower, it has ecology. I'm like, it doesn't like has a better ecology, it has ecology, because I don't think Istanbul has like some connections to nature. And here in Berlin you see like green parks and you see foxes in the streets. I already talked about it, like that people who left Russia and they moved to other cities, they started seeing animals in the streets and they're so surprised. Like my whole Instagram feed is full of hedgehogs, foxes, and different birds, because we didn't really see it in Moscow because not all the neighborhoods had animals. because it's fucking polluted and loud and noisy. And even if you live in a better neighborhood, you're still so obsessed with your job and career and running somewhere, so you don't even notice those animals and those trees and stuff like that. And only after we lost all of our careers and we had to move to quieter and slower cities, we started seeing those. So I don't think I want to lose that if I return home. What was I talking about? Yeah, my friends over Zoom. This is so weird. It's so weird that they're all on the screen, and it kind of ruins your brain because there are windows on the screen. They're the same as like your Netflix images or YouTube. Like for me, my friends and my mother and Conan O'Brien and Jimmy Kimmel and the band called Idols, they're all the same. They're like some characters that I look at the screen. They're not real anymore. So it breaks your brain because our brains are older than that, so we cannot understand that. That is why when we have this thing called like parasocial relationships, when we cannot really understand if it's a real person or just a person that we like follow on Instagram. There's this comedian Andrew Hamilton from I don't know, like Dad Jokes challenge. He did this thing on YouTube. It was hilarious, and I followed him on Instagram. And one day he posted some story. It was funny, and I decided to like send him another joke on the same topic. And he replied to me, and we spoke for like 20 minutes. Like we exchanged texts on Instagram, and I just realized that I am actually texting with an international star because he has like more than 1 million of followers, and like I'm texting with him as if he were my friend, and like my brain doesn't really understand that he's way more famous and he's in Australia, and still my brain's like, yeah, he's a human being. Text him. It's weird. And I guess it's just because Andrew Hamilton is such a nice guy. That is why I didn't see this difference. What kind of restaurants do you like? I don't like restaurants. I don't feel like I belong to restaurants. I was in the university. It was like our second or third year, and we had an American teacher. She moved to Kursk for a year. Like she was like an exchange student or something. She was our English teacher for a while, and she was super lonely. She didn't have any friends in Kursk, so she went to work. She did her lessons, and she went back home. I don't know where she lived. And one day, our other teacher told us as a group to invite her for a dinner because she's so lonely and she needs to find friends. She needs to see the city. And we called her, we invited her, and we took her to a pub. I didn't know the name, but it's like horrible tacky name and horrible pub. She dressed up. She wore like a beautiful dress to a pub, and we wore like t-shirts and jeans. And she ordered mineral water and the steak and chips, and she's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I didn't know the service here was so horrible, and I already have my steak and you still didn't get your food. And we're like, we didn't order any food, like it's just beer for us. And we realized that we have other traditions of consuming food and alcohol, and we always eat food at home to not spend money at a pub or in a restaurant, and we want to save more money for beer. When we were young enough to go to nightclubs, we always drank alcohol at home because the alcohol in nightclubs is so expensive, so we preferred to just, I want to say dance, but I never danced in a nightclub. I just was in a nightclub. I just hang out in the nightclub, and usually you hang out in the nightclub and you kind of wait for the morning because you don't want to call a taxi, and you just wait until the public transport is back again and you can take a bus home. So yeah, and from that period of my life, I still don't feel like I belong in a restaurant. I'm sure that it's not unique for Russia. I guess American students also have the same thing, but I think our teacher was shocked by our behavior just because we were from the French department and we were supposed to be like those nice, cool guys from a better department who are so well-mannered and well-educated. But we learned French because we were losers. One of my favorite books is A Secret History by Donna Tartt, and it's about a group of students who learn Greek, and that is why they feel like a high society. They're like a cult. They feel like they're better than everyone because they learn Greek, not something that you can actually use in your life, but you learn the Greek, and that is why, like, it's all about them feeling like an elite group of people. And we learned French, and we never felt like that. We never felt like that. We always felt like losers. We always discussed who will work in the McDonald's. Our city still didn't have any McDonald's, but we were ready to take over after graduating from the university. And we were poor after the university for years, except some girls who were lucky to get married during their fourth year of the university. And it felt like we were all falling from the airplane, but they had parachutes. There's like 10 people falling from the airplane, and 3 of them should like and they just disappear, and 7 of us remained poor for years. So yeah, I don't know. That is why I don't like restaurants, because I still feel poor. Even when I do great with my career, I still like, I gotta eat at home.
I'm hungry.
Are you usually up for going to your favorite restaurant even if you're tired? Yeah, as I said, no, I'm not up to go to a restaurant because of the things I said before, and because of COVID, because COVID broke it. Because before 2020, you used to choose going somewhere more often to a show, to a concert, to a restaurant, because it was like nice to be not at home. But COVID made our homes safer and nicer, because we finally got our Netflix and YouTube work for us. The deliveries got better, and I guess we all learned to appreciate our homes more. That is why living in Russia was such a big deal for me, because by 2021, I finally built my dream house, home. My dream apartment, let's say it like that. It was my own apartment. For the first time in my life, I bought an apartment and it was mine. And I bought everything that I needed in this apartment. Like, we had air conditioning, we had 2 huge TVs, I had a Sony PlayStation, I had like everything. And suddenly in the beginning of 2022, my country became a fascist regime. And for a while, we discussed that with my wife, because in the movie business, it's called the debate, when like this part of a movie where a character feels that they need to go somewhere and change and get something they want, but they have their doubts because they have their ordinary life and it's nice and you don't want to live it. So we had like this conversations that we finally have everything. We finally have stuff that we can have to survive no matter what happens. I guess we had enough savings and enough gadgets to go through a long war and a long like dangers of staying in Russia while being against the war, because like we felt like it could be our castle where we could just close the door and shut the windows and just enjoy the content. But I mean, staying at home and like ignoring the reality means that you give up your ambition. If you want to be a successful comedian or whatever, you have to go outside. You have to protest against something. And if you give it up, you just stop growing and you become like an old man who who has all the stuff behind him. And I felt like I have some energy left in my soul, so I will try to reinvent myself. That is why I have no big TV anymore. Berlin comedians complained that COVID ruined Berlin comedy scene, because before that it was great. I hate when they say that, like, it was better. Of course, you are a great comedian and you moved to Berlin and you improved our scene, but it was better before you. We had great guys and they did comedy, they did their shows, and now it's all gone. And they complain that less people come to those shows. And I listen to them, but quietly I say, maybe you should try write better jokes, because like usually if you write good jokes, people come. So maybe try that. In like 3 weeks, we have Berlin Comedy Festival here in June, and I am invited to do like some workshop on how to develop your social media and your YouTube channel to actually make money of your comedy. And I feel like I should do it because I will get to tell them how to live their lives, how to actually promote your shows, how to actually promote yourself, because it feels like people don't really know how to do it, and they complain about people not coming to their shows because they don't know how to make them come. I guess the future of the humanity is to be optimized, is to live alone for almost every person on the planet. There's this book, it's called The Possibility of an Island by Michel Houellebecq. It's one of my favorite. It's about the distant future or distant past, probably. And people are immortal and they live in their separate houses or apartments. They're immortal and they just spend their days while being alone and consuming content and just seldom talking to each other. It felt like our present. I guess we invent more and more technology to replace people in our lives. It's like in Moneyball, when the baseball team lost their stars and they just used a bunch of medium players but with good qualities to replace 3 stars of their team. That's what we will do with our lives. Like we need love and we will replace it with sex gadgets. We want connection and we will replace it with better messengers and Zoom and shit like that. And we will replace someone cooking for us by those delivery services. And step by step, we will replace everything. We will cut off everything that connects us to the humanity, to our families or our friends. That will be cool, especially for me, a person who earns his money by performing live. By the way, I did shows over Zoom during the pandemic, and it was horrible because you don't get to recharge your inner batteries when people laugh and they clap. They don't do it over Zoom. The only good show I had, it was like 150 people in the room. And I made them all turn on their microphones. I heard when you deliver a great joke, they do that. That's their biggest reaction to your best jokes in your hour. But when you have like 150 people, and when 150 people do, it feels like a show, because you get like 40 an hour, and like you're not so devastated afterwards. You have like a medium sadness and some money on your account. So yeah, I guess that's the future. Where do you usually go to grab a bite to eat? If I do, I go to Turkish places here in Berlin. It's a common thing for Berlin comedians to go and get a kebab in a kebab place. It's such an important thing for Berlin. There's even a thing called techno kebab. It's for people who just left the nightclub to grab a kebab for like €7, and it's called techno kebab because I guess when you're high on drugs and you dance all night, you see only the word techno and you grab this one. I was used to kebabs while living in Turkey. When I moved to Berlin, it was like coming home when I moved to Berlin from Istanbul. By the way, Berlin kebab is better, although it looks the same. But I guess it's just because those kebab makers here in Berlin, they try harder because they want to stay in Germany. They want to extend their visas, so they try harder, because if you make a kebab in Turkey, it's just a kebab. But if you make it here, it's like you make a point. You try to show everybody and the government that you're great and you want to stay and build a life here. That is why when you eat a Berlin kebab, you feel like this effort, extra effort, and it feels better. It also feels great when you've lived in Turkey, and like I know a couple of words. Turkish guys, they like it so much when you try to be interested in their culture, and when they hand you a kebab, you say teşekkür ederim, like thank you. And they're so happy. I got free drinks more than like 5 times in those joints, just because I was decent enough to just thank them in their language. But I guess it's all gone for me, because I went to see a doctor because I pay 400 euros a month for my medical insurance. So I go to see doctors because I want to get something for my money. And we recently did some tests, and it turns out I cannot eat anything. I basically cannot eat anything. I cannot eat sugar. I cannot eat dairy. I cannot eat potatoes. I cannot eat rice and pasta. Basically, I cannot be poor. I only have to eat like avocados and quinoa. I have to like eat rich people's food. So yeah, I don't know how will I survive. I cannot drink coffee anymore. Like I hate plant-based milk. I cannot have a normal cappuccino anymore. But my plan is that when I feel that my life is done and I will not achieve anything good in my life anymore, I will commit a cappuccino suicide. I will visit every specialty coffee place in my neighborhood, even Starbucks, and I will drink enough cappuccino to kill me, and it will be the best and the last day of my life. That's my plan. I don't really know how to build your life when you don't know what you can eat. It turns out it's such a big part of your life. First of all, it influences your emotions, because for a while I didn't eat any carbs for like 2 weeks because I needed to like do something about my stomach. So I didn't eat any carbs and I never felt full. So I was angry all the time. I yelled at my wife, at my dogs, and I didn't like the person who I were without carbs. So I didn't know that this chemistry is so important. I always felt like your brain is always the same, and it's just your body that changes. Like your body aches or feels great or it's fat or skinny, but your brain is always the same. But turns out the chemistry of your brain is so much affected by the food, but coffee. And I was so angry. And I don't know. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be unhappy because of the shitty food that I cannot have. We were thinking of moving to Barcelona with my wife, and we went there to get some paperwork done and to check out the cuisine. And I don't think I will survive with my restrictions, because Spanish cuisine is all about carbs and rice and stuff like that. I don't know what to do. I guess I will have to think again. But I liked Barcelona comedy scene because I need to keep performing even after moving to another city. And I went, I signed up for a couple of shows, and the local comedians helped me to get those spots. And it turns out that Barcelona comedy is very different from Berlin comedy, because Berlin comedy is very, very joke-based. Here, people, they try to write jokes probably at home, not only 5 minutes before the show in their shitty notebooks, but they try to base their sets around proper jokes. And it felt like Barcelona comedians, they try to build their sets around their personas. So they try to be like more of like clowns. They try to be funny on themselves. Like they try to be on stage and try to be funny. Like they try to act funny. They try to yell in funny voices. They try to move funny. They try to play with the pitch and the tempo and stuff like that. And only after that they try to tell some jokes. And you feel like even when the jokes don't work, you still have a good time, because like it's interesting to watch this insane person. And it's so different from my experience, because I was a Berlin comedian even when I lived in Istanbul and Moscow, because I'm trying to be as bulletproof as I can. I try to write jokes that work independently from my delivery. I can just stand and just mumble them, and they still should work because they're funny on paper. And the Barcelona, the Spanish, I guess, approach to this is so different that I'm a little bit scary. But if I learn to be a Barcelona comedian who is alive on scene, who is reacting, not just acting, but reacting to the audience, to like, I don't know, the light, the venue. If I learn to be a comedian like that, and I'll still be able to write funny jokes, I will be more of a universal soldier. So that's what I need, especially before going to the United States and killing my ego in Philadelphia. So yeah, that is why I go to Turkish kebab joints.
Where do you come from?
Germany.
Where do you come from?
Italy.
Is there anything you can't stand? Why? Violence. I hate violence. And matcha latte. That's my two things that I hate the most. All right, I'm gonna run to the airport because my tour starts in 2 hours. And I'm kind of nervous, and like it's been buzzing in my brain since I started recording this podcast. Thank you for watching. I will try to make a proper podcast that you can listen in Spotify and in Yandex Musica. I already have a logo. It's weird and I like it. It's made by a guy who made logos and posters for Moscow comedy events. I'm happy that I managed to take a cool little thing that I had in Moscow and bring it here. Not a lot of them left. So yeah. Follow me here on YouTube, follow me on Instagram. It's really important to me, because the more you follow, the more people from Eastern Europe and the United States who have more money to pay for my shows, the more of my content they see, and the more they follow me, and the more my career looks international. So thank you for doing that. All the links will be in the description of this video. When I have the links for my audio platforms such as Spotify, I will also add them to the description, so keep checking the description. Thank you so much. Bye.
Unit 1, Lessons 9, 10, 11. Exercise 3.